All right. The other news that came in this week is that there has been no news. It is extremely quiet when it comes to the offensive coordinator. Matt Canada is still in the building. According to Mark Kaboly, he was there as late as today. That doesn't mean that he was there for a specific reason. We don't know why. Ray Fittipaldo said on the fan yesterday that there's still an 80% chance that the Steelers move on from Matt Canada. It's Friday. We are a day after. It took the Steelers 4 days to move on from Randy Fichtner 2 years ago. We are now on day 5 of Matt Canada watch. What do you make of this? What are you feeling? Do you think that we've hit the time where maybe Matt Canada is coming back?
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder if we're gonna get like a Friday afternoon like news drop, the atypical
Oh, right in
media
the middle
saying
of this.
like,
It's going to
yeah,
be
right
right in the middle of this.
right in the middle of this, or 3:30 p.m. or something like that Eastern time, where they can get it out and not have to answer any questions until like Monday or something. But no, I mean, I kind of figured when the Steelers offense, played a lot better for a number of different reasons over the second half of the season. I figured that this decision wasn't going to be as cut and dry as maybe it seemed like during the first half of the season. So um, I don't really know what to think. There's a reason that I haven't really discussed it as much on Twitter. It's just because while it is a big decision, it's just I'm in like really wait and see mode. A lot of people, I've given my thoughts on some offensive coordinators and things like that. But until it happens, until the position's open and we know that he's not going to be back, I mean, it's kind of futile conversation because,
Yeah, like what are you going to do?
um, yeah, the one thing I will say that I don't know, I can see both sides of the argument with Canada, considering Kenny, played solid football down the stretch. I think people are saying, well, you can't interrupt, Kenny's development by putting a new offensive coordinator in. I think you got to be careful with that because I do see that side of the coin in terms of like you're seeing development. They did play better down the stretch, and I definitely want to give credit to Canada for being a part of that success.
Yeah.
But the goal isn't to be a decent, like a solid offense. The goal is to win a Super Bowl, and I think that should be in the back of everybody's minds. Yes, you want Kenny to develop, but yeah, I think you really have to ask yourself at the end of the evaluation, like, is this the guy that we think can take the offense to the next level and be a top 10 offense to make us into Super Bowl contenders? And I'm not saying that's going to be next year, might be the year after, but the Steelers' plan is to get back in the playoffs. And you look around at the other AFC teams, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, like the big name quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, like,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to score points with those guys. So,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I would obviously still prefer for them to go a different direction, but I'm not 100% sure that's going to be the case.
I laugh because you said it so calmly that the goal is to win a Super Bowl, but it just doesn't feel like that. Like it
I, d-
just feels like that's not the step.
I think that there's it's very tricky for me to express my feelings on that because like, for example, I gave Tomlin a ton of credit over the second half of the season for righting the ship because this group looked dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think Tomlin's a good coach. Like, I think anyone saying otherwise, I think they're a little loony. Um, but it's the same thing a little bit with like the Tomlin streak of 500, like above 500 running record or whatever.
Yeah.
I get a little, it gives me a different type of feeling. It looked cringy almost when we spend so much time talking about it because I grew up in, the late 90s, early 2000, like
Yeah,
early
exactly.
2000s. And, in the 2000s, they went to 3 AFC championship games in 5 years. And it's like, man, that it doesn't sit right with me that we focus, even like off season fodder, which I would consider that now. Um, it just, I don't focus a lot of my energy towards that type of stuff, and I just want to make sure that we're still on the same page, man. And I know Tomlin is very adamant about that. Like when he talks to the media, like his goal is to win Super Bowls.
Yeah,
Like the
exactly.
record itself doesn't matter. I want to make sure that the fan base understands that too. Like, don't get complacent, and that's the thing with Canada. I think you're settling a little bit. I think it's the cautious approach if you run it back, but we'll see. I mean, all decisions have consequences. So,
And like,
hope.
what's the? I don't get that argument because what is the fallback to that? You get one more year. Like the argument is you don't want to blow it up because you don't want to take the risk with Kenny. Well, what happens if it doesn't work? Then you're going to take the risk in
There's
2024. Like
there's always going to be risk though. I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. Like, what
yeah.
is the like when you're weighing the risk factor? Isn't it just as big of a risk to say, well, then we're going to blow it up in 2024 over? Oh, okay. Well, they clicked for 5 games at the end of the season. Maybe we should keep Matt Canada around. Like, no, just bring somebody else in, pull the band-aid off. If it doesn't work, then at that point you could say that you messed up and maybe you should have kept Canada. Or you could say, well, maybe Kenny Pickett isn't as good as we thought he was going to be because he can't adjust to a new offensive coordinator. Either way, you don't not blow it up because you're worried that Kenny Pickett might take a step back. If Kenny Pickett takes a step back with a better offensive coordinator, I mean, that one's on Kenny Pickett. That's not on.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to trust your process, and that's the
Exactly.
thing. If their process deems that they think they want to run it back with him, that's fine. I'm not really sure that I agree, but I just know like when I look at the numbers, man, like even over the second half of the season where they were like a top 10, top 15 type of offense, there's just a lot of unstable variables there, and I look at. For example, I look at the overall health of the offense and the team in general.
Oh yeah.
Um, the the Steelers were incredibly healthy this season.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from, obviously TJ Watt, a huge loss, missing him for like half the year. But you look at their offensive line, all 5 starters started every game. That's
Yep.
not normal. So like Deontay Johnson played every game. George Pickens played every game. They had some like switching quarterbacks and things like that. There's a lot of different variables there that I'm not sure they're going to have the luxury of next year. When I just look at the totality of the work, over the course of the season, yes, they finished trending upward, but they were still 23rd in points per drive, 17th in yards per drive. I look at the AFC, and
you can't do that.
I don't think it's enough, and I'm just very focused on, continuing to give Kenny the best shot, to develop into a franchise type quarterback that's going to be able to compete with these other elite guys in the AFC. That's my focus. So.
That has to be your focus. Like you can't get into a situation where you fought all year. Your game plan was to win with a very mild offense and then find yourself in an AFC championship game against Patrick Mahomes and say, well, our defense probably isn't going to work as well this time, but good thing we have no ability to, go into a shootout and actually win.